the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up!
Welcome everyone to another episode of CorbinCenter. Of course I have a lot to talk about. We are starting Season 3 and the loudmouth from the Lakes area is excited about a lot of this. I don't want to ever sound like I'm trying to put a damper on things. I don't want to sound too negative, but I do feel that some criticism is needed by far. So here's what I'm thinking that we need to do. We got to focus on some of the good things that are going on because there are good things for Season 3 and I am optimistic. And if I'm optimistic, you should be optimistic. So let's hope everybody is optimistic because while we have some things that we need to cover, there is some shining stars and unexpected areas. But I'm going to start off by saying the brightest thing about this team is that defense. Wow. I mean, wow. Just let's get to it. Starting off in week 1, here's one thing that I really caught that it was interesting to me. Free safety Rodney Kelly, first game right out of the bat, 2 interceptions, comes in with 2 interceptions, 3 tackles, and a touchdown. Okay, they forced fumbles. Here is something about this team that we need to really address. They play to the elements 100%. And this might be why this team is such a bruising defense. Now, it was raining mostly the first half of the season. Every home game there was at least some point where there was like a little bit of rain here and there, but this one, week 1 was a storm. And boy oh boy, did that play to the strengths of this team. The Fusion caused 4 fumbles in these rainy conditions. Also 8 players from the Falcons went on the disabled list. 3 of them didn't even return to the game. This is a whole new looking defense. And then also, like, as we keep going, they go on the road and they go to a couple division rivals and they lose. So we're sitting at 1-2, which is not exactly where we want to be. This is probably the worst start that they've had. They had a bye week in there, and I don't know if they were starting to get it, but here's what ends up happening. So then they come back and they play the Saints. And the biggest thing about what we're seeing now is there is not one single player, but the addition of multiple, which in this one, the player of the game is rookie cornerback Lamb-Leg Frankenville, who had 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, 1 touchdown, and 3 tackles. He was all over. And then also, one of the brightest parts of this offense, which I think is actually kind of helping everything, all things considered, you have a weapon in Luka Walkenholtz. Now, why didn't this happen sooner? He's got a 100-yard gain. He's got receiving. The defense is hitting sacks, causing fumbles. When it rains, they are making that ball bounce out of the offense's hands. They are taking everything. They handed the Saints their first loss. The Saints were undefeated up until this point, and they not only did they beat them, they on 3 separate occasions, they injured quarterback Williams for the Saints, took him out of the game. They have been roughing up players. They have been aggressive. Some of the hits have been, you can hear them all the way up in the press boxes. Now, they're not the only team that's been hurt, and this is one thing it would be great if they were able to withstand, but sometimes those injuries fall back on you. And fullback Yandu McCumble, he's out for 4 weeks. He suffered a minor injury. It's going to keep him out for a little bit. They signed Kel Gibson to kind of replace him. I don't know if that's necessary there. They had to trade the wide receiver Stephen Gregg that they originally picked up as a kick returner. Not that they use that very much, but they got a 4th-round pick out of him. That's not going to be too bad. And then the following week, they go to Kansas City. Kansas City's 5-1. So you have the Saints who are 5-0. You have this team that's 5-1. So the deal is Kansas City goes into this game, league leaders in rushing. But then you have Sturgis, who just this year has only had 1 100-yard game. And one of the goals that they always set aside is they want the team to at least have 100-yard rush every game. 100-yard reception, 100-yard rush, 300 yards receiving. Well, at halftime, our Fusion are up 21-0. Now, again, we could focus on a couple things and interceptions across the board, shut down defense, which is great, but I need to mention the following. This game, Rockwell fumbled 3 times. It was raining. He fumbled 3 times, but he was able to utilize a lot of weapons. Now, remember, they picked up Kahufel. They've been using Walkenholtz a lot more. Those two together have been giving them a lot of weapons. Plus, you have Nelson, who's super fast. But both of them had 2 touchdowns each. Welch Manor had 5 TDs. And see, I'm not going to dwell too much on this because I feel like I give Welch Manor too much of a hard time. He only had 230 yards. The defense put him in great position all night long. All he had to do was finish it up. So 230 yards and 5. I mean, like, luckily, one thing we can say here is he's doing a great job with these red zone trips. And that's exactly what you needed out of this. And that's exactly, like I said, exactly what you need out of this. But the fumble thing, the interception thing, like, the only thing that I'm really not sold on is the backup quarterbacks that they got in the draft. I just don't think that when you look at it, that they're going to step up. They're not ready to take his spot. But it's also unsure. He's got 1 year left on his contract. Maybe they're grooming him for when he does eventually leave so that they don't have to worry about cap penalties. But now we go into week 7. We have this where the Fusion end up trading their first-round pick. They get a first, second, and fourth-round pick from the Titans. The Fusion trade a second, third, and fourth-round pick to get another first and second-round pick from Washington. That's awesome. They head to Carolina. They beat Carolina on the road. That's great. They head to Buffalo. They beat Buffalo on the road. That's great. So right now, this team has really turned it around at the end. They're on a 4-game hot streak. But the thing that I'm impressed about, how am I ever impressed? I love the fact that this defense is a killing machine out there. They are hitting hard, and I don't know if it's the addition of new people or finally some of these veteran players on this team are really trying to step up. And that is this has been a whole new looking defense. I'm going to give Williams, cornerback Williams, a big credit here. Frankenville has been doing amazing. Obviously, Jazz Trombo Jr., he does a great job. And while I have my doubts on the offensive line as far as who's all there, the defensive tackles have really come through. And JT Collins, of all players, see, this is the thing. Of all things, everybody that you would assume, everyone that you would assume, as much as I gave Deuce Jones a hard time for being a 2-time Pro Bowler and like a third-string cornerback, this team has depth. And they need the depth to go through. And the reason why the games have been so close, even if there are mistakes, it's because of the defense. And I think that is going to actually be the thing that keeps them up. I am very optimistic for the second half. I don't think we're going to see a collapse like we normally do. And I think if they continue to give time to Welch Manor and he uses these weapons that he has, the Walkenholtz, the Kahufel, using Sturgis, and potentially getting more with the fullback and the tight end positions, we are going to be fine leading in. And I could be wrong, but let's find out on the next CorbinCenter.